Hi, I'm Leanne Young, capping off the school year by saying goodbye to the classroom and foodies' delight in one of Spain's top dishes. This is our Vancouver. Coming up, diving into underwater forests on all three of Canada's coasts. And dishing on one of Spain's best-known and loved recipes. But first, an Indigenous high school student is given a crowning glory to cap off her final school year. High school graduates take the stage this month. After 2 years of virtual learning and pandemic life, crossing the finish line means that much more. Britannia secondary student graduate Kira Yeomans has really shown us what more means. She is this year's Indigenous valedictorian, a title awarded by the Vancouver School Board each year to celebrate an outstanding Indigenous graduate. So hello, Kira. Thanks for joining us.
Hi.
Hi. So Kira, this was your last week of high school, right?
Yes.
How was that? How are you feeling?
I feel really great about it.
Yeah? Went well? Happy with how things all wrapped
Yeah.
up? You still have grad though tomorrow, prom, right?
Yes.
Right, great. But you had your Indigenous graduate ceremony already, and you wore your beautiful blanket there. So tell me a little bit about that, because it all draws from your background.
Yes. So my blanket, I had my Uncle Sam design it, and all of my aunties helped put it on. My Auntie Marilyn put the design on, and my aunties put the buttons on. It has a raven on the back because I follow my mother, and she was also a raven. Where the raven's heart should be is an eagle because my grandpa was an eagle, but he passed away in 2008. So where the heart should be is an eagle because I always carry him in my heart.
That's such beautiful symbolism. And you're Simshin, Nishka, and Haida, right?
Yes.
All right, so what does it mean to you to, become the Indigenous valedictorian?
It means a lot because I moved down here from Prince Rupert in grade 3 and attended Britannia Elementary. So growing up in East Vancouver and then finally hearing the fact that I'm the valedictorian and I'm representing the whole school board was very exciting because I'm also one of 2 Indigenous representatives on my student council this year.
Right, yes, and you've been doing that since you were 14 though, right?
Yeah,
For a while. Yeah, wonderful. So how did you react when you first found out?
So the teacher that told me, she was the support staff, Tori, she literally just told me with a straight expression, and all of a sudden I freaked out, and then she goes, oh, maybe I should show some expression, and she got up and hugged me and said congrats. And then I told one of my friends, I said, I have big news. And she goes, you got it, didn't you? Because I told her I ran. And I was like, I didn't even get to say yes or no. So she knew before me.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's amazing. I heard there were a couple tears too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big moment for sure. So people who know you describe you as a role model, as a leader. What do you think when you hear that?
So when I first heard all of it, like when people started talking about me, it was very emotional. I didn't expect to hear all of them at once, especially from most of my teachers, because we're in the middle of sending yearbooks and reading everything the teachers have to say. I'm like, oh, how am I going to leave you guys?
So, I think you're a little bit of an overachiever, to say the least. What drives you? What's your motivation?
So I have 2 younger siblings. They are in kindergarten and grade 1.
Wonderful.
So I try to be my best role model for them, as I also have a brother who is 7 years older than me. So I want to make him proud and make sure my siblings have a good role model.
Oh, well, you know what? I'm sure they're very proud. I'm sure your parents are very proud. So what are your plans now after graduation?
For the summer, I'm going to be working at the Museum of Anthropology out at UBC as a Native youth worker.
Cool.
As well as I'm going to be going to Langara in the fall for health studies to go into nursing so I could become a pediatric nurse.
Oh, amazing. You're going to be so great with the kids, and you're already such a wonderful role model. Well, what do you think you're going to miss about your time in high school? Because you enjoyed it, you loved it.
Yeah.
So what are you going to miss about it as you say goodbye to that chapter?
I don't know, maybe just seeing my friends every day.
Yeah.
Because I have, I think, one friend coming with me to Langara, but most of them are going to like SFU or UBC. So saying goodbye to my friends, seeing them every day, and especially all my teachers that I've grown like to see every single day.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, you got to make sure you keep them. You have them all on Snapchat and Instagram, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, you're going to keep in touch with all of them. All right,
Yeah.
well, Kira, you are a wonderful role model. Good luck with your next chapter. We're so excited for you, and congratulations again.
Thank
Kira
you.
Yeomans.
I'm Noel.
And I'm Romeo. And this is our Vancouver.
Time for one of our favorite features when we showcase a number of the photographs sent in by you, our audience. Bikram Rijal sent us this one from Kensington Park in Burnaby, a bumblebee taking in some local offerings, such beautiful flowers too. And a curious red-winged blackbird checks out Richard Topping's camera at a Richmond area park, perhaps a little tired of always being in front of the lens. And finally, a mama bear with her cubs taking a break for lunch in Kristen Bird's backyard in Rosslyn, BC. Now that is amazing to see. And keep them coming. You can email your favorite photos to bcphotos@cbc.ca. That's bcphotos, all one word, at cbc.ca. Coming up, questions swirling around hurricanes and how long they take to wind down. Johanna Wagstaffe explains.
The FIFA World Cup 2026 will be played at home.
And I am pleased to announce the first city, the beautiful city of Vancouver.
Hurricanes are some of the most intense weather systems this planet has to offer. And because of climate change, they're becoming more intense, dropping more rainfall, are forming in areas they didn't used to, and are rapidly intensifying at alarming speeds. And now we're learning that they also may be taking longer to wind down once they do hit the coast. This new study from scientists at the Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology shows that hurricanes are staying stronger for longer once they make landfall, which means they're extending their damaging path farther inland. The team analyzed all landfalling storms in the North Atlantic Basin from 1967 to 2018, and they found a slower rate of hurricane decay since they're now holding on to more moisture picked up from warmer sea surface temperatures. In fact, hurricanes during the course of the first 24 hours after landfall are weakening almost twice as slowly now than they did 50 years ago. Computer model simulations of hurricanes showed that additional moisture is most likely the main cause for these trends. The team created computer simulations of 4 different hurricanes and then set different temperatures for the surface of the sea. Once each virtual hurricane reached Cat 4 strength, the scientists simulated landfall by cutting off the supply of moisture from beneath. That's when they found that even though each simulated storm made landfall at the same intensity, the ones that developed over warmer waters, well, they took more time to weaken. If these trends continue, it could make hurricanes even more costly. They're already one of the costliest natural disasters in North America. And with a busy season already meaning around 3 hurricanes that enter into Atlantic Canadian waters each year, a warming world will mean the potential for greater impact on our Canadian communities, even a few hundred kilometers inland. The researchers now plan to study hurricane data from other regions of the world to determine whether this trend is occurring around the globe. So stay tuned. And now you're Science Smart. If you have a science question on your mind, send me a tweet and I'll try to get it answered.
Hello, I am Margot, and this is our Vancouver.
Thanks, Johanna. You are watching Our Vancouver. I'm Leanne Young. Well, you might have already tried it, a Spanish feast called paella. In Spain, it's served at large social gatherings where family and friends eat well into the night. Here in Vancouver, the dish has become a sold-out event. At the moment, Vancouver's Como Taparia restaurant is featuring it. The chefs are known as the Paella Guys, and I have Chef Javier Blanc. He's with me right now in studio. He's one of the co-founders. So Javier, tell me about this dish, paella.
Okay.
What is it made up of? Where does it come from?
Okay, paella comes from Valencia. Valencia is the next region south of Catalonia, where Barcelona is, and is made with, basically paella is about the rice. The star of the dish is the rice. It's not about how many things you put into it, it's how we cook the rice.
And what makes the rice special? Because I can see it's yellow and it's beautiful.
Yeah. It's a very short grain rice that absorbs very well all the flavors. We grow it in some fields that they're in the south of Valencia. They're called albufera. And that's what it is. We try to cook it as well, very thin. So it's just one layer of rice and the rice is cooked perfectly. Okay? The ingredients that we used to put, it used to be chicken. We used to put always the common ones are tomato, saffron, olive oil.
And you've got some of these right here.
I have some in here.
Yeah, okay, so there's the olive oil.
That's right.
This is the saffron.
This is the saffron.
Okay, and this is the rice.
This is the rice that I tried.
Yeah, and then we've got a little.
This is pimentón. It's kind of a paprika. All these products, we bring them from Spain, okay? Because that's the place that we grow them, and I think in order to have an authentic paella, we have to bring these things. And then you will do always white meats, never black meats, and seafood. We have different kind of paellas. The more traditional one, it will be a chicken and vegetables paella. We used to put rabbit as well. Oh. And we used to put as well bones in on the meats because it gives more flavor, and all that flavor will go to the rice.
Right. So I've also even seen paella with avocado and chorizo. No. You're flinching. You're flinching.
Yeah, I know, because there is a misunderstanding. We never put chorizo into a paella. It's kind of a thing for us. You know?
Okay.
You know, I always say the same story. Like Jamie Oliver, the chef, he did a paella with chorizo, and it was in the news during 2-3 days. You know. Because we never put chorizo. If you are chorizo, then don't call it paella, okay? Okay. You can call rice with things. You know,
rice with things.
That's right.
Okay. So tell us about the paella, guys. How did it come about?
Yeah. So paella Guys, we started 4 years ago, and we are a catering company. We do private events, weddings, we go do corporate events. Wherever you think that we can fit a 10 by 10 space in order to put our tent and set up the pans, we will be able to cook, starting from 40 people up to 1,500. We've been in construction sites, in the beach, in Victoria, Oliver, Pemberton, so all around. Wherever we can fit the tent, 10 by 10 for the rain. Yeah. We will go and cook the paella. We have as well some other tapas, but the main dish, it will be the paella.
Right, and the pans get bigger and bigger as your groups get bigger.
This is very small. Yeah, we have up to, for 200 people, paella, which is 150 centimeters. And
you use something like this.
That's right.
Yeah.
I just brought one big
This is kind of like a spoon so you don't burn yourself.
That's right, yeah. So you cook from the distance there. It's very, it's just a very, how do you say, like simple thing, you know?
Yeah. But it's
very useful.
Yes,
it's very useful.
Okay, I feel like I have to try it.
Yeah.
So how should I do this? Should I just go for it with a spoon,
yeah.
or do you?
I'm going to prepare a bit.
Okay, you'll prepare a little bit. Okay.
Just what I like when we have seafood, I like to put it on just a bit on the side.
Okay.
Okay. And so after I can put, not everybody likes everything. Okay. And then on the bottom.
The good thing for me is that I like everything.
Yeah. We have one thing that is called the socarrat, which is this burn part. Okay.
Yes.
Which is the best part. Usually, these outsides of the pan, we give it to the kids. They are the first one, because are the best ones. You know?
Oh, that's nice.
So,
yeah.
And it's
in Chinese tradition, we often cook in clay pots, and it's also the burnt on the outside. That's the best part.
This is a very family dish. You know, you gather with the family, you bring the ingredients, you prepare them. Prepare first the sangria, you know, but then after you prepare all the ingredients together, you know, the kids, they prepare the ingredients as well, and after you cook and you eat together. You know?
Okay, so I've got to try it.
So you have to try this part, which will be.
So should I take a spoon and
if you can take a spoon and go for it, okay?
This looks delicious. So good. The rice is so flavorful.
That's right, yeah.
That's what we try. Really comes
That's
through.
what I try to say, that for us, the main, or the star of the dish, it will be the rice. It's not about how many things you put, you know. It's just how you cook the ingredients in order to get that flavor and get into the rice.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's perfectly cooked. That rice is crispy, but the rice is cooked all the way through.
That's right.
Okay, so finally, before we let you go, tell me a little bit about your collaboration with Como Taperia that's on Main Street.
Yeah, so we do collaborations with restaurants, and 2 years ago, when COVID started, we did some collaboration with them, which is every 2 Sundays during the summer. We have 7 dates. We cook paellas for 50 people, big paellas. You have to do a reservation in advance, and the reservations are for 12, 2, and 4. So we do 3 rounds of 50. So the paella will be ready by 1, 3, and 5. So people have some time to have some tapas, have some drinks,
Right, and you're cooking from scratch, so everyone can watch you guys do it.
You see the big pan since we put the olive oil until we end. So you see all the process.
And I heard you're also competing.
Yeah,
you're representing Canada in something. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's the Paella World Cup. It's is in September 20th in Spain, Valencia. And we are some chefs around the world that were competing. I got selected to represent Canada. So now you can vote online. If I get, it will be 10 chefs that they will go to Valencia for the finals.
Okay, well, I've tried your paella. It's delicious. You've got my vote.
Okay,
thank you so much, Chef. Have your blank for being here from the Paella guys.
Thank you.
If you want to go see some live music, Kingston, Ontario band The Glorious Sons is in Vancouver to play 3 nights at the Commodore Ballroom June 29th, 30th, and July 1st.
Dance with the mansions, note the slim chances. Chant this anthem, swing like Pete Sampras, taking it straight to big man on campus.
And they might not be from Canada, but this New York hip-hop group made their mark everywhere. The Wu-Tang Clan plays the Vancouver PNE Forum on July 2nd.
Hey, I'm Grant Lawrence here with a huge update for you in CBC Music's Toyota Searchlight 2022. That's our annual hunt for Canada's best undiscovered musical talent. After a couple of weeks of judging, listening, judging again and again and again, we have announced our national top 10 finalists. And here are just a couple of them for you to check out right now.
Holding on to parties like a Nobel. No one tells you how much life the love kills. You're 21, so lost in sun. You forgot it's at 10 p.m. We missed the boat, laughed till it froze. Guess there's magic in the way things end. But I won't lie.
And I don't like to talk about my feelings. If I could have a word with all my demons, I'd say not today. I just wanna make the most of this life. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing it right. Everyone's a little broken sometimes, and that's fine. I don't wanna spend the rest of my days worrying about the things I can't change. Everything is gonna make sense one day. We'll make it through somehow, some way.
When I was 16, I had you to hold me, dancing in darkness. Oh, what you told me. For just a few seconds, I was in heaven. How old do we have to be till we can be happy? I want you, and I want you tonight, and I love you for the rest of my life, and I can't wait for the day to arrive. We all wanna be younger, but I wish we were older.
There you go. Those are 3 of the Canadian artists who have made it into the top 10 of CBC Music's Toyota Searchlight 2022. You can check out all 10 of the great national finalists now at cbc.ca/searchlight. Congratulations to the 10 who made it. Now it's up to our music industry judges to decide the grand prize champion and our 4 runners-up, who will be announced on Tuesday, June 28th. Prizes include a placement into the Alan Slate Juno Masterclass in Toronto, a recording residency at the National Music Centre in Calgary, a trip to the 2023 Juno Awards in Edmonton, and a distribution deal for the winning songs, just to name a few of the prizes. I'm Grant Lawrence. I'll update you again on the winners of CBC Music's Toyota Searchlight very soon.
Coming up, making way for high rivers, Yute Lee explores what creating space for more flooding means in some of the region's hardest hit floodplains. Welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Leanne Young. Yute Lee explores issues in our neighborhoods that affect our daily lives. This week, he looks at a different approach to rising waters, an approach that could create space for flooding while keeping people safe.
This is Abbotsford, British Columbia, right now, as of 2022. But in November of last year, this is what Abbotsford looked like. After several days of heavy rain, much of the low-lying valley around this city was flooded, wreaking havoc and causing millions of dollars in damage. But this video isn't just about Abbotsford. This video is about a larger pattern, because what happened here is likely going to happen a lot more often. With climate change, rivers across Canada are expected to flood more often. There are many complex factors behind this, but here's a quick overview. In the case of coastal rivers, you have sea level rise from the ocean. For rivers that flow from mountains, you have snow that is melting faster and faster every year. Then you have frequent wildfires that destroy forests, leaving behind land that is much less absorbent to water. Add increasingly intense rainstorms into the mix, and you have a perfect recipe for flooding. That's what happened in Abbotsford and other parts of British Columbia last year. A month's worth of rain fell in 2 days over areas upstream that had been ravaged by wildfires in the previous summer, leading to devastating results. Floods like this are a growing concern for the many cities across Canada that are located near rivers. Places like Calgary, Ottawa, Montreal, and many, many others. So what should we do about this? Well, there's the obvious answer. Just build a wall. That always works, right? But the problem is, we've already tried that. Throughout history, humans have created walls along rivers and other water bodies to make sure that water stays out and land stays dry. One of the most common structures for this is the dike, a simple wall made by piling up dirt and rocks next to the water. You see, floods are nothing new because rivers are not naturally static bodies of water. Over the years, a river can fluctuate in speed and size and even shift direction depending on the climate. Every once in a while, those fluctuations flood the land next to the river. That might be great for a wetland or swamp, but not so great for farmland and buildings. So, over the years, humans have often built dikes and other structures to make sure the river stays its lane. And that has allowed us to build settlements right up to the water's edge. But climate change and the larger floods it brings is proving to be a real threat to these kinds of protections. You can really see that in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia. Experts predict that by the end of the 21st century, floods that we're used to seeing every 200 to 500 years will start occurring more like every 50 years. And the dikes here just wouldn't be able to handle that. A survey of dikes in the Fraser Valley found that 71% of them could fail during this kind of a flood. fixing those dikes and building them higher comes with a huge price tag. The provincial government here estimates that it will cost $10 billion to upgrade the dikes in the Fraser Valley. $10 billion! Just let that sink in for a bit. Okay, definitely not the right choice of words. Now, I do want to mention that building dikes isn't the only solution here. In Calgary, the city is looking to build a $432 million reservoir to temporarily hold water when its river runs too high. In Ontario, the Clairville Dam holds back water to help prevent flooding in the GTA. And I think a particularly interesting example is in Winnipeg. In the 60s, the city dug out what is effectively a giant ditch called the floodway to keep the city from flooding. During heavy rains, it reroutes water from the Red River around the entire city. And this is a massive piece of infrastructure. At the time, it was the second largest earth-moving project in the world, after the Panama Canal. But at the end of the day, all these solutions share one thing in common: the extraordinary cost. And because of that, increased river floods pose a much more existential question to a lot of areas. You simply can't build a multi-billion-dollar floodway for every community impacted by climate change. And I find this to be a common narrative these days. The increase in river floods is just one of many, many stories where the impacts of a changing climate will leave us paying for insanely expensive fixes or grappling with loss. And honestly, it can often feel overwhelming or straight up depressing. But for this story, I found something that helped me look at this issue a bit differently. In the Fraser Valley, many are seeing the upcoming challenges to the dike network as an opportunity to help salmon. Yes, salmon. The Fraser River is the world's largest salmon-producing river. Each year, hundreds of thousands to millions of these fish swim up the Fraser to spawn, and their offspring then make their way down this river towards the Pacific. Along the way, they look for refuge in little streams, marshes, or sloughs to rest and grow stronger before they swim out into the ocean. But it turns out that these dikes have blocked salmon from accessing these crucial resting areas. According to the Watershed Watch Salmon Society, over 1,500 kilometers of this habitat have been blocked by dikes. Well, since so many of these dikes need to be updated anyways, many are advocating that salmon-friendly infrastructure be integrated into the upgrades. This could include gates that open up to let fish access the streams behind the dikes. It could also include fish-friendly pump stations that don't harm fish when pumping water from the stream to the river. And the salmon need all the help they can get. Salmon returns have been declining for decades. In fact, last year, the federal government closed 60% of commercial salmon fisheries because they were on the verge of collapse. This initiative really helped me see some silver linings in this issue, but it also highlighted something important. These dikes might have not been that great of an idea to begin with. Many are now recognizing that in the long term, a more sensible response to increased flooding might be to just give space for these floods to happen naturally, while moving people safely out of the way. In 2006, the Netherlands launched Room for the River, a program that involved buying out homeowners who lived close to rivers and moving their dikes further back, creating more space for river floods. A little closer to home, the state of Washington has a similar program called Floodplains by Design, which has reconnected over 7,000 acres of floodplain back to the river. These changes, of course, require very difficult conversations because it can involve some people giving up their homes. But again, it's not a complete loss. With each floodplain that's restored comes new marshes, wetlands, and creeks. Those areas offer new habitats for fish and wildlife while creating critical protections for the communities behind them. That helps me see this issue a bit differently. Climate change and increased river floods do threaten to change many of the landscapes that we've grown used to, and our knee-jerk reaction is often to preserve these places against that change, to keep things exactly the same. But in some cases, I think we could start seeing this as a bit more of an opportunity, one that invites us to re-examine our relationship to rivers in general. Or at the very least, help out some salmon. They could really use it.
Hi, my name is Ming.
I'm Pauline.
And I'm Kelly.
And this is our Vancouver.
Coming up, swimming in forests. CBC Coastlines takes a dip into underwater kelp forests on all 3 of Canada's coasts.
Shout out to the hula-hoops. Talk to me nicely. Hey, everybody's got a hobby. I don't know what it is.
I was down so bad, you were acting like a fan. Then I started popping, everybody will be fan. Say, bro, thank you so much for sharing this moment with me. I love y'all. Give me more than just your patience, yeah. Get stuck in situations. You know I give you my yeah.
Welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Leanne Young. Beneath each of Canada's oceans lies some of the most productive and awe-inspiring ecosystems on the planet, the giant kelp forests. In this episode of the CBC series Coastlines, we hear from 3 young researchers hoping to change how the world sees them.
Did you know that forests don't just grow on land? Beneath each of Canada's oceans lies one of the most productive and awe-inspiring ecosystems on the planet. This magical place is the kelp forest, and it's so important to the ocean. I'm Connell Bradwell, a wildlife conservationist in British Columbia.
And I'm Erica Porter, a fisher here in Nova Scotia.
We are the hosts for Coastlines, a CBC series that brings together young Canadians who are working to save our animals, plants and habitats on all 3 of Canada's coasts.
And today we're talking about kelp. Kelp forests thrive in cold, nutrient-rich waters, just like those here behind me in Nova Scotia. Now, if you're used to calling the seaweed, you're not wrong. It's one of those situations where all kelp is seaweed, but not all seaweed is kelp.
Kelp can be thought of as the trees of the ocean because of the role they play in forming complex 3-dimensional habitats underwater, just like trees do here on land.
They are one of the most productive ecosystems in the world. Some species of kelp produce more biomass annually per meter squared than tropical rainforests. Like, that's so cool. The first time I heard that, I was like, dang, I am studying a really cool species.
Rebecca Evans studies kelp and marine food webs in the Arctic. Now, the Arctic isn't exactly the first place you think of when talking about an underwater forest, but the kelp she studies has been able to adapt to the harsh conditions of the Arctic.
Yeah, so I did a bit of research and I found that kelp have special strategies to be able to survive the freezing temperatures and the darkness too. They can even grow under the sea ice. Despite these crazy cool adaptations, kelp in the Arctic is still a bit of a mystery to researchers.
There isn't a lot of baseline information about coastal marine food webs. This baseline information will be able to help us understand how these Arctic ecosystems and these coastal ecosystems are going to be impacted by climate change.
These kelp are already living in an extreme environment, but now they have to deal with climate change?
What makes kelp forests even more vulnerable to climate change is that they are stationary.
So unlike most life in the ocean, kelp is stuck in place, which means it's directly impacted by everything around it, which is super important in the Arctic, where climate change is hitting harder and faster than anywhere else.
So Erica, climate change is driving the loss of kelp in the Arctic. What about on other coastlines? Are we seeing similar impacts?
So basically, yes. Climate change is impacting kelp on different coastlines. Take here in Nova Scotia, for example.
So kelp really are the foundation of a diverse and thriving ecosystem here on the East Coast.
So the bad news is kelp has been declining on the East Coast. That's in large part due to an invasive species Conrad and his team have been studying.
So this invasive species goes by the catchy name of Membranipara membranacea.
If you didn't catch that, it's Membranipara membranacea.
But it's actually more commonly known by the easier name of lacy crust bryozoan.
These lacy crusts start their lives as tiny little larvae that float through the ocean currents. They attach themselves to kelp where they grow like sheet-like colonies that cover the surface of the kelp blade.
The problem is that colonies of lacy crust on the kelp weaken the kelp tissue and leave the kelp vulnerable to being ripped apart during periods of heavy wave action.
And it's only getting worse with more frequent storms caused by climate change, which, as you can imagine, is not good for the kelp.
One of the main findings of my research was that temperature is the main driver of the abundance of this lacy crust bryozoan.
We still don't know that much about this relatively new species, which is why Conrad wanted to study it for his master's thesis.
So continued research on the lacy crust and kelp might start to unlock some answers about how we can best preserve the kelp that we have left.
Protecting kelp is really important, but it's not just good for ocean life, it's also good for us. And that's because kelp and other species of seaweed can actually help us to fight the very climate change that they're threatened by. And that's something that Majid is looking at here on the West Coast.
So the sugar kelp itself, these are super fast growing plants. They're constantly hungry. They're eating all the nutrients around they can, carbon, nitrogen. It's a natural filter for the ocean, essentially.
Yeah, so kelp filters ocean water, which help maintains healthy levels of nutrients. It also stores carbon, which is incredibly important for fighting climate change.
And this process is something that Majid knows really well, because over the last few years, he's been running his own kelp farm.
A kelp farm?
Yeah, a farm where he grows and harvests kelp under the ocean's surface.
So we're not only sequestering carbon in the sediment underneath the farm, but we're also sequestering carbon in the plant itself that we're farming, cultivating, and taking out of the ocean.
After Majid and his team harvest the kelp, it can be used for everything from agricultural feed to fertilizer, construction material, and even a food source for us humans. It turns out that kelp farming is not only not harming the ocean, it actually has a net positive for coastal health.
Whether planted by kelp farmers like Majid or growing naturally in our coastal environments, kelp clearly has a vital role to play.
Kelp just supports so many other organisms, both in the ocean and out of the ocean, and protecting them protects us.
We don't know most things about the ocean. We need to fully understand the biology and ecology of the world of seaweed. So we've got a big task ahead of us and a lot of questions to ask. If we do it right, this could be it. This could change the world.
Thanks so much for watching. Check out our other videos and don't forget to subscribe.
I am Mercutio Silvermane. This is our Vancouver.
It's not always easy to come out and embrace your identity. Add cultural barriers, and it's a hurdle many struggle to overcome. But Jolene Queen Sloan has done just that. The CBC's Benit Brach spoke to the Punjabi drag queen as she celebrated her first Pride in BC.
Embracing the glitz and color of Indian glamour, drag is a dream come true for Jolene Sloan, who is celebrating her Punjabi culture in a way that's turning heads in her community.
So I would say it's just the roots that I'm connected with, and it's very important nowadays as well to celebrate your own culture.
This is the ornament that we wear in our hair.
Jolene arrived as an international student in 2016 and began drag in Yukon after a hard breakup. Now, every week, the stage in Vancouver has become her safe haven.
But for the first time, these people were telling me that we love the culture that you bring in the community. Not only the people from South Asian community are able to celebrate your culture, but people from different races. Finally, there is no toxicity around me, and it's just all the love that I can see.
But acceptance in drag has not come easy.
I had, experiences where I was beaten up for being gay back home.
Jolene is a drag persona for Priyanshu Grover. He participated in dance competitions with women and came out as gay to his parents in India. While close family has for the most part been supportive, being accepted as a drag queen by less immediate relatives, society, and friends has been much more challenging. He says they have been curious, but truly never understood him.
So I pretty much lost everybody who was there.
So he came to Canada to own his identity and chase his drag dreams with hopes to better educate those back home. And the audience here takes in the show of Jolene.
It creates a huge safe space for brown folks at home that feel like they're not represented enough.
It feels really amazing to come out here and just see other South Asians just thrive in their industry.
This Punjabi drag queen also wants to inspire more BIPOC talent in drag.
We want to see diversity. We want to see people of color and screens. We want to see people represented.
And as she celebrates her first Pride Month, Jolene's message is of self-acceptance and love. Beneath Brach, CBC News, Vancouver.
Never out of touch and always within reach. Does that sound familiar? There's no denying the smartphone has changed our lives, but what came before the iPhone took its toll? Let's dip into our archives for this 1990 story about the car phone and its cost.
It's a new restaurant down the street. Yeah, it's really good.
Worst drivers in the world are the guys who are holding their phone up to the rear.
Who are these people?
I'm in the contracting business.
I'm in the sales promotion business.
I have a nutritional supplement business.
I'm in graphic arts. And who are they talking to?
Yes, I talk to my office, to my clients.
To the office, to clients.
My travel agents and my office.
Your travel agents?
Yeah.
Are you in the travel business?
Yeah.
Don't you have an office?
Yes, I do. Yes, I have an office, both at home and downtown.
Why do you need your phone in the car?
Because I get a lot done on my way to and from the office.
Having a car phone is like you've made something of yourself.
What's the status component, though? There's got
I don't really think there's any. Almost everybody's got them. Companies seem to buy them for everybody who works for them.
And when the company puts one in the car, you're expected to work in the car.
You can never get away, even if you want to. Even if you turn it off, and you know you gotta access it to get your messages, so they can reach you all the time. So that's the downside. Can't disappear.
But most car phone people don't really want to disappear.
If I get lost, I can phone where I'm going and say, here I am, how do I get there? And I usually get lost. I speak to my mother. It's much better to speak to your mother before you get to work than while you're there.
I'm a lawyer, so I'll try to tell the truth, although as hard as that is. I would say that roughly 70% of my phone calls are pleasure. I mean, I'm phoning my friends to find out if they're in their car. I mean, that's the truth. Truth is, I should be limited on this, and everybody should. It's ridiculous. You don't need a phone in your car.
Who are you talking to?
My wife.
How much do these folks pay to reach out on the road?
Between $200 and $250 a month worth, which is about, a couple of 100 minutes.
I think it's about $150.
$350 a month?
About $700.
Really?
Yes.
How many hours is that?
That's close to about 12 hours.
Now, you're not just talking to clients and contractors.
Yes, I am. Clients and contractors.
Really?
They last about 25 minutes per call. Lawyers usually last about 5-6.
It's a gold mine for the people who sell the service, because most users are hooked for life.
Could never go back to being without a car phone. In fact, when I'm out of town and I rent a car without a phone, I feel quite concerned even about my safety.
It's very, very handy.
Well, once you have it, it's like a dishwasher. Like you don't know how you didn't have one before.
When we bring you stories here at CBC Vancouver, we have award-winning photographers out capturing the images that say so much. Still images add context and bring a lot more to the understanding of an event or an issue. Here are some of the latest from what happened this past week. And that's all for our Vancouver this week. I'm Leanne Young. Goodbye for now.